welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I am so honored to have my client and peer here with us today, Sarah Schafer. Hi, Sarah. Thanks for being here.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
So good to have you. So let's get into it. I'll tell you a little bit about Sarah, and then I'll ask her to share her own story. So Sarah has worked as a nurse for the past 30 years, working with a variety of patients in different acute care settings. Most recently, she has obtained a certification in integrative mental health coaching and has obtained a variety of certifications associated with psychedelic-assisted therapy and integration. And then, Sarah, I want you to share the part about what got you onto this path of joining my group mastermind program, working with me as a coach, also helping people with their own journeys with microdosing and other psychedelic assisted experiences. I'm curious, what brought you here? What was your story that brought you to medicines and this work that you're stepping into?
Well, it's interesting because, like you said, I've been in nursing for over 30 years now and sort of definitely deeply ingrained in Western medicine. Grew up in the 80s with the, don't do drugs and this is your brain on drugs. And, so that was always off the table and always, marijuana was like a gateway drug for sure. Um, so those were things that I never even thought about. I actually was a jail nurse for several years, and so dealt with a lot of clients and patients that came through that were doing a lot of drugs, not psychedelics for the most part, but drugs nonetheless. They were all heaped into one category for me. So I had been on antidepressants for over 20 years, battling depression, what I thought was clinical major depressive disorder, and that I was told was probably hereditary. My father had struggled with depression. My grandmother had also struggled with depression. And she had talked about her grandmother also struggling with depression. So we come from a long line of sad folks. So I thought, well, that's my lot in life. And this is what I'm going to have to, this is what I'm going to have to be on these forever. And as a lot of people that have been on them for a long time, they realize they feel nothing anymore. They don't feel joy. They don't feel sadness, which is lovely, but also you don't feel joy. You don't feel anything. So I just got to the point a couple years ago where I was pretty tired of just not feeling anything. I just felt like I was moving through the day and getting nowhere, just kind of like a robot. And one evening in November was trying to figure out what to watch on TV, and How to Change Your Mind on Netflix came up. And so I thought, well, okay, I'll watch that. And first episode was on LSD, and I thought, oh, no, thank you. That's hardcore stuff. You stay away from that, But watching Michael Pollan, I thought he doesn't look like, your average, inmate that I had treated, I mean, he's pretty normal looking. So I listened to the second episode, which was on psilocybin. And by the end of that episode was in tears. And my husband was, thumbing through his phone on the couch while this was playing. And he looked up and was like, whoa, what's going on here? Why are all the tears? And I said, I feel like maybe for the first time there's hope for me to treat this depression. I don't have to be on this medicine anymore. And he just kind of was like, okay, well, that's interesting, and let it go. And I went into warp speed into researching mushrooms and psilocybin and their effects and what do they do physiologically. And I kind of was obsessive about it for a little bit. And we went on vacation, and I told him that I had found a retreat in Jamaica it was more Western medicine based, and that's where my comfort level was. And he was very opposed to me doing that. I think he was afraid it was going to break me, that I'd come back worse than I went down there as. And
Wow.
And rightfully so. It's a scary thing. Although, side note, as a high schooler and college student, he did every drug known to man. I mean, I'm like, what the heck? Except psychedelics. Those scared him. So he was afraid that he would see pink elephants and never come back. So, yeah.
Irony.
Anyway, so I went to Jamaica. Was kind of scary. I just decided this was kind of my last hope. I actually had been courting the idea of electroconvulsive therapy, which is pretty scary. I know what that does. So, but I was just tired. So I went to Jamaica, took a big risk, and did 3 high dose journeys, and they were pretty life changing for me. Met God, wasn't expecting to meet God at all, was just wanting this to get fixed and not be sad anymore. And met him in my second journey down there, and came home, and then started this road to figuring out how to continue on this road to healing. I knew that I wasn't done. There was more that needed to be done, and I just didn't know how to do it. I don't know anybody that grows mushrooms. I live in a little sort of logging community. I didn't know where to go, and happened to find somebody that grows over in the Seattle area, and started asking lots of questions there. And he helped me start microdosing, and that led into some MDMA, which was wildly healing for self-love, and because I had some real issues there. And then my husband and I actually, when he saw me come home from that solo trip on MDMA that I did and how changed I was, and I asked him, will you please do a couples retreat with me with MDMA? And so he was super nervous and was like, yeah, man, I don't know. But I finally kind of twisted his arm a little bit. And so we drove 10 hours to Canada, and did an MDMA journey together there. And that just changed our marriage completely. We'd been married 28 years, so we're a totally different couple now. But in this process, started talking to a friend of mine who's a therapist, and said, "Hey, have you done some mushrooms ever?" Felt kind of weird to ask her that, but she's kind of my hippie friend. So I thought, well, the chances are maybe. And she said, actually, she'd done a little bit, but no high dose journey. So I kind of told her about my experience, and she went ahead and did a high dose journey on her own. And I kind of tried to just tell her,
Wow.
here's all the things they told me in Jamaica. I'm going to tell you, and you do with that what you will. And so a couple months after that, we started talking and said, this is important work. We gotta bring this to people in our community. People have to know that they don't have to be on this, pharmaceuticals forever and feeling nothing, that it's okay to feel. And probably it's not genetic. Probably it's, some really crappy coping mechanisms that you were programmed with early on. And so then I start, because I'm just the researcher, I will research the snot out of everything. So I'm researching, and I'm like looking up psychedelics and entrepreneurship. And there's a few things coming up, but this character, Beth Weinstein, keeps coming up over and over and over. And I'm like, wonder what it is about her. So I started reading about you and kind of started looking through things. I'm like, well, she's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm trying to figure out how to, I don't know where to go with this. I just know this needs to get out there, but I don't know how to make a business out of this, because I've just been a nurse. I am not a business person. And so you and I chatted, and I know when I pulled the trigger, because I won't do the discovery calls with anything. I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. If I can email, if I can text, whatever, that's great, but I don't want to talk to anybody. And then I just was like, she's going to make me do it. So got on the call with you and chatted. And I know I talked to you from work, where I was at. I was in scrubs. Had my hair in the, thing, because I work in an OR. And I remember feeling a little on edge, a little defensive as we were chatting. And after talking to you, I could just feel everything in me just kind of level out. And I was like, okay, maybe you should listen to this part of you and go talk to your husband a little bit about this and make this investment. So thus began my journey with you.
Thank you for sharing. And what is it you are up to now with your clients, or, the work that you're doing?
Well, My partner and I we formed an LLC last December, and this summer we actually, I believe in I believe in God. I believe in synchronicities. I believe in all of that, and it all has just sort of come together it feels very slowly, but then also very quickly. It hasn't even been a year. But my husband's grandmother passed away many years ago, and her house has been sitting empty in our town. And it's on a pretty large piece of property, and there's a big yard out. I'm looking out over there, and deer come up into the yard and hang out. And he said, I feel like we need to redo this house for you guys, and this can be your office. And we had no idea really where we were going to go. We were just kind of looking for a place to rent. And what do you put on your application? We're going to do drugs with people and heal them. I mean, that's not real popular with any landlords. So I got to work with my husband and remodeled this little house, and it's now our office. And she left her bigger office that she was in and is now we've got our business here, and she sees clients for regular talk therapy, and I do microdosing coaching, and we'll be starting some journeys in January. Yeah.
Oh my God. And with couples too, right?
Yes. My husband and I do couples Rekindle weekends, where kind of the same thing that we had when we went up to Canada a little over a year ago. And we did our first Rekindle weekend in November, and it was a wild success. And we had a couple there that was 73 years old, and they've been married for 43 years. And I was like, the nurse in me is going, oh, what is this? Are they going to be okay? And checking in on me, mom, papa, making sure they're fine up there. And the next morning when they came down to visit with us, they were both in tears, and they said, this is marriage changing, and this is life changing, and this is going to change so many marriages. And to hear that from a couple that's been married for 43 years is very affirming. Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm in tears. Hearing your story, I mean, the first time I heard it, and the second time, I got tears. I mean, it just shows so much of the power of these medicines, and also the power of, like really feeling into your heart and wanting to make a difference and wanting to you out of all people, like you've definitely been like, you're scared, but you're willing to jump,
Yeah.
And I love that about you, because it's shown like everything's just really fallen into place. And it's like, look at that, like 40 years of marriage and they're in tears,
Yeah.
oh my God. And it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. I love this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to hear about, your journey being a nurse and all this. I will say, and I'm sure we discussed it, I don't even remember, but, over the years, I've had a lot of clients who've been nurses, oddly, and I think it's because it's a challenging career. It's like you're of service. It's great. Our world would not be where it is today without nurses, and bless all of them. But it's hard, and it's a hard system. And then they come to me saying like they still want to help, they want to make a difference, and maybe they've discovered psychedelics. But how has it been for you navigating this as a nurse? Like, do people at work know? Are you totally leading a double life? Is it like, what's your, have you navigated the fear around being a nurse and stepping out into the psychedelic realm?
It's been interesting because, nobody but a couple of people at work knew that I was going to Jamaica and what I was doing when I was there. Everybody else thought I was, drinking Mai Tais on the beach. And so when I got home, they're like, oh, was it? And I'm going, it was really good. And not saying a word, for a while. And then as I got into it, I kind of decided I was going to maybe chat a little bit more about it openly with just a few select people that I felt kind of safe with there. And then it got to the point where it was like, you're doing nobody any service by not letting them know the healing that you've experienced. And so I just started sharing, and now I share with everybody, and I don't hesitate about it. I just tell people, yep. I don't tell them, oh, I'm currently microdosing today, but I tell them, hey, I can teach you, I can show you. Let's figure this out. And it's funny because my chief nursing officer actually tells everybody else around the hospital, all of other administration. My CEO came up to me and he says, "Hey, I hear you're doing all this work with mushrooms now." And I'm like, "Oh God." And so yeah.
And it's been okay.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Sorry, I wanted to like really take a moment to like mention that for anybody listening that you are okay, you are still
Hmm.
safe, you are still alive, and you're still actually working as a nurse, correct?
I am, yeah. Cutting back in January. I'm pretty excited about that, but yeah, and it's just people say, how are you doing this legally? And it's, well, I'm not growing the medicine and distributing and, selling. So I'm coaching people on how to make this work.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm curious, what has that process been to cut back on your work? I mean, you've been a nurse for 30 years. It's a big deal. I mean, and I know when I met you, it was like, wow, like, I don't know if I can keep doing this forever. And you were feeling a call to do something more aligned. But how has this process been stepping into this kind of new world of like you have literally like that was a huge manifestation. Like even though it's your husband's like it's already in his, he already has this house, but it was kind of like, wait a second, this just landed in your lap and it was a dream and it came through within I think the first 5 months, 6 months of the program. It was like, oh, we found a house and now we're going to turn in. And then it was like a month later. And then now, you have a program coming up in just a month and, already have clients. How has this experience been for you? Like really, especially
Um,
cutting back. Yeah.
it's so funny you say that because when you look back at it, I look at it and go, oh, a lot has happened in a short period of time. But as it's happening, it feels like nothing is happening. And, I still feel stuck. And I mean, there were some of the things that we were doing towards the first of the year. I mean, I think I shared with you, when I first met you, I wasn't sure. And 3 months later, I felt like, I don't know, maybe this isn't going to be right for me, and now I'm like, there's just too much lining out for it not to be right. This is how it's supposed to be. Cutting back in nursing, that's been kind of a struggle. I mean, I've been anxious to get out because I'm so tired of our healthcare system. It's so broken. But at the same time, it's who I am. I mean, I'm 52. I've been a nurse for my whole adult life, so it's sort of who I am, and rediscovering who I am now, uh, at 52 is, it's a trip, like literally and figuratively. Um, and it's scary. I told one of my coworkers the other day, cause I'm going to 2 days a week, at the first of the year. And, I said, it's scary to let go of familiarity of what I know I'm good at. I know I'm good at that. I don't have any doubts where that's concerned. And I don't necessarily have to, I mean, I do have to think at what I'm doing. I work in a very high acute, emergent type setting, but I can be on autopilot a fair amount. Whereas this, you can't predict people's problems or their whatever, and I'm like, I feel so ill-equipped sometimes. And then it's like, stop. You've been doing psych nursing your whole life with everything you've been doing. So, it'll be fine. But yeah, it's been a little bit bumpy at times and lots of tears at times. And then it's like, it'll be okay. It'll be all right.
Yeah. Not only all right, it's like it's happening. And
Yeah.
I mean, your story I love these kind of stories. It's a very common thing, by the way. A lot of my clients who come in with the biggest, like, imposter syndrome. Who am I? I don't know. No, no, no. Like the doubts and the fears, they always end up being the ones that have this huge transformation where it's like, oh, here it is. And I think as entrepreneurs in general, it's a very common thing to be constantly reinventing ourselves and be okay with that. It's very easy when you have a secure job, especially as a nurse, where it's like, okay, it's like here it is. You could stay there your entire life for the most part, unless I don't know. I mean, it's rare, but for the most part, people do. It's like you just become a career and then retire, and it feels like very, you're provided for. And on some level, there is no such thing as security, right? It's like, well,
Right.
we've all seen nurses lose jobs or hospitals close or the systems or something happens maybe to them. So it's like life in general is inherently unpredictable and we never know what's going to happen. So the more we can really just pay attention to this feeling of like, well, what's lighting me up? What's landing in my lap? Where's the alignment starting to happen? When you start to take these little steps that I walk you through,
Hmm.
it's like, oh, this door open, and then this person's curious, and then I think you had, I remembered you had posted something. Yeah, let's talk about this. I want to hear about it because I remember, didn't you post something on Facebook at one point where it was like, like you had never really come out and said anything, and you posted something and you got all these responses, right? Wasn't that you? What was this
I,
story?
I posted my story. I think I
That's
finally
what it
just
was.
was like, I'm just going to get out there and I don't know, just say it. And I've been an oversharer pretty much my whole life, which is, it's just who I am. Used to apologize for it. Now I'm like, whatever, it's who
Oh,
I am. And I just decided this is, of all the things I could overshare, this is the most important thing that I could overshare. This could be the thing that keeps somebody from suicide. This could be the thing that keeps them from, I mean, I was not suicidal, but I was at a point of I'm willing to, do a electroshock therapy, to
God.
screw up my I just no, no. I people need to know there's other options, there's better ways that it's hard work. I mean, there's nothing easy about this, but my gosh, I feel so much better almost every day.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And speaking of better ways, now I want to ask about this work that you do with the couples rekindling. It's funny. I was just talking to a friend recently about when I was younger. I did a lot of MDMA because it was kind of a recreational drug back then. And I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I sometimes have mixed feelings about it because, of course, it feels really good. But then I was like, well, is this just like a fake contrived feeling? I've also never done a couple session ever, even though it's been on that list and it's come close, and then we just never got around to it. But tell us a little bit about, like how this helps marriages or how this can help with the rekindle work that you're doing. I mean, is it just because, they're on this drug and their hearts are open, or is there something else to it?
um, it's just, I think it's a medicine. I mean, it seems like it'd be a really great party medicine. Although my husband and I have sat and talked about, could we ever take this and just be like, I don't know, go out dancing or whatever. And it's like so foreign to us. There's no way, there's just no way I could. But it's just, I think it's such a medicine of connection. You know, again, we were married for 28 years and we never talked to the depth level that we did while we were doing MDMA. And it all boils down to, like with all psychedelics and healing and growth, it boils down to intention. It boils down to setting. And, in this experience, we prep people. We really model it after the one that we went to with a few little tweaks here and there. But for a week before, every day, each person individually gets a little text assignment, and it's just to get people to start connecting with each other through that week, kind of to prime the pump a little bit. And, I remember thinking when we were going up there, this is terrible, but I thought, oh my God, we meet as a group before we go into this dosing. Is this some sort of weird sex orgy? Because I am not down for that. I am not about that. I come from Lewiston, Idaho. That is not happening. And when we told the couple that, they were like, "Oh my God, no," But so that was a little sidebar. Sorry, that's not what happens on these weekends. Um, so we kind of prime the pump, get people thinking about each other. What's a really the most meaningful memory you have with each other? So getting people to kind of start digging back into maybe the first part of their relationship, or maybe the most meaningful thing happened last week, but to remember that and share that with each other. And then we lighten it up with a little bit of, what's the funniest thing that you've ever experienced as a couple, and share that with each other. And then the evening that they're together, they meet with us as a group, and we just go through, quick introductions. Here's what the night looks like. Here's what the medicine does. Also, what are you here for? And it's sort of surprising how many people will actually kind of puke up some stuff in that first. They maybe don't know each other, but they feel like, okay, we're doing this. We're gonna take it seriously. We have gift bags that we put together that are very intentional. I spend a lot of time and a lot of money on these gift bags to make sure that they're just very meaningful. And I want it to be meaningful for them. They go to their room. We have, they're called conversation cards for couples. And we just tell them, sit with the medicine as you start feeling it come on. Start going through these conversation cards, and the medicine will take you where you need to go. And people are sort of like, that's very woo. I don't feel like I understand what you're saying. And we're like, I know, but if you could just trust me that it will. And they're like, okay. So we have them state their intentions to each other before they take the medicine. And then they take the medicine, we leave, they go on their way. I check in with them a couple times over the next couple of hours. And then the next morning we get together and just say, how did things go? The following week, I send them a couple of different integration exercises to do over the week. And then my husband and I meet with them over Zoom at the end of that week just to follow up, see how things are going, make sure they're, not having any issues or problems physically or emotionally from what they went through. But every couple there said, my God, those cards were outstanding. And if you and I read them outside of that medicine space or whatever, they can be interesting, but you're going to get bored of them kind of, I don't know, halfway through the deck, and you'll plow through the whole deck. Or maybe one couple said, we got 2 cards done, and it just takes you down rabbit holes. And they said they were able to work through a lot of really old issues that they didn't think were even an issue anymore. Their creativity, one of them, the one couple was like, yep, we're putting an offer on a house next week. We know what we're doing with our business. They had lined out a whole bunch of creative sort of, it's a medicine of connection. They come together, you talk, you really, you hear each other I think sometimes for the very first time, you really are able to hear, no filters, no, I'm not judging what you're saying based on my filters. You're not judging what you're saying based on mine. It's honest, pure communication in its purest form. And it lasts afterwards. I mean, I've got one couple that texted me here. It's been a month, they texted me last week and said, I had my doubts that this was going to last, and it's outstanding. We talk about things that the week before we went on this thing, we would have been too scared to bring up because, afraid it might piss that one off or offend this one, So, and that's been my husband's and my experience with it. Yeah. So I love it. I love MDMA. Everybody should have it.
No, it's amazing because, yeah, wow. Thank you so much for sharing all that. No, it's incredible because I know many people who've reported this, and it's funny because I've had the experience of making lifelong friends because of MDMA, like even back when I did it recreationally, like some of those experiences were life changing.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to a random stranger at a rave in your 20s, and next thing you know, you're friends with them like 30 years later. I mean, it's crazy. I'm still friends with some of these people where I was like,
Yeah.
I think we met on a subway, like I have no idea. I'm like, I think I met you on the streets. Like, it's just incredible. And I'm curious, do you find that it's, maybe more like the woman, and speaking in heteronormative terms, but like the woman that wants to come in, the man is kind of dragging his feet, or is it like, are you finding like people are just both curious, or what is that dynamic like so far?
Interestingly, all three couples, the man was the one saying, "Yes, let's go. We have to go. We have to do this. This is going to be so great." Now,
Ooh.
all three of those men will also say, "I came in with an agenda. I knew we were going to talk about this, that, and the other. We were going to settle some stuff." And all three of them went, "Oh no, that didn't go at all how I
Wow.
thought that was going to go. It was entirely different." And it just,
Oh my God.
it was interesting. They really tapped into sort of their, we talk about your feminine and your masculine, and the men really tapped into their feminine, which they hadn't before, and the women were just like, felt so heard for the first time, and the men, actually the older couple, the man said, "I feel like for the first time in 43 years, my wife listened to me. And when I told her, these are the things that you've done over the years that have hurt me deeply, she didn't make a joke of it. She didn't turn around and walk out of the room. She cried and said, 'I'm so sorry. I never meant to make you feel that way.'" And so just that level of connection and really understanding the heart of the person that you love most, and I would say too, my partner and I use it here, also in regular therapy, for just PTSD and really anything. But my husband and my daughter actually did MDMA together. My partner facilitated it. Um, they had been like oil and water their whole lives. I mean, just like this. And I was like, I want to kill you both. And she's 33 years old, so they did it a year ago, and it changed their relationship. They are so much more loving to each other. They don't push each other's buttons. They listen to each other. They're much more gentle with each other. So, I mean, it has such, I don't know, it has such potential and possibilities. Yeah.
I'm just sitting here going like, oh my God, I mean, luckily I got to rekindle a relationship with my dad, years before he died, but oh my God. I mean, I never even thought about that. Like mother, daughter, father,
Hmm.
son, all these potentials. By the way, I don't think I knew that story. And I think that's something, very interesting to explore. Because how many stories do we hear of this? Like families being torn apart just because of this lack of communication, and
Hmm.
underneath it all, right, is like deep wounding. Usually it's like, it's not that people actually dislike each other or can't get along. It's just like wounded people, we come together for a reason.
Yep.
And that's just how, and most families are operating, in these like wounding patterns, like that just get played out. And like you said, these people that say like, oh, the depression is genetic, which I don't know. I'm like, has anybody proven that yet? I don't even think that exists, because it's really epigenetic. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, if it's family after family after family and everybody just passed it down, and there's trauma, 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 and no one does anything, of course, it's going to get
Yeah.
passed down. These deep patterns. Wow, these stories are just so incredible. And now, let's hear a little bit about the microdosing work you do. Is that like a different crew of people, or is that like what's going on with people coming to you for microdosing?
It's mostly people who are, they're curious about psychedelics, and maybe nervous to do a macrodose journey. Just feel like that's a little too much, and maybe kind of want to dip their toe into psychedelics a little bit, get a feel for it. Um, there's that subset of folks. There's also, I am seeing a lot of moms coming through, that are, they've got lots of littles at home and they just feel sort of at their wits' end. I actually met with she's now a client. this morning. She was a prospective client when I met with her this morning, and now she's a client. So thank you, Beth. And she
Today you
has
got a
four.
client?
Yeah. So that's exciting.
Hello, let's celebrate. Woo. Okay, go on.
So she's got four littles at home, and she works from home and is just sort of, she's at her wit's end. She feels like she's done talk therapy and really hasn't gotten a lot from just talk therapy, and wants to give plant medicine a try. And so I do a 3-month microdosing coaching program, and we go through, we kind of start at a foundational level. We don't, we set intentions at the beginning and then go through, clearing space. So clearing some head space, clearing some physical space, getting ready for the new thoughts, for the new way of thinking, the new way of acting to happen through the 3-month journey. And then each week they get they get a journal that has sort of emotional tracking, emotional and feelings tracking along the way. And then I actually wrote weekly deeper dive journal prompts, and to try to get them to move a little deeper into root causes of whatever it is that they're trying to understand. So anxiety, depression, overwhelm, burnout. And we go through things like tapping, meditation. I actually have been taking some courses in aromatherapy. And so I'm offering that as part of the microdosing thing. And it's been, I've done a couple of group aromatherapy sessions on my little guinea pigs and get some feedback from them on, how they think it went. And it's on some sort of ancestral stuff, like you said, the epigenetic stuff. And it's really, I was really impressed with what it did for me, and sort of shocked. And then in these groups have been really shocked at how deep people have gone with it. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. So now I'm incorporating aroma into the macrodose journeys as well, and using that to help people kind of move through those journeys. But yeah, microdosing I think is just a nice way for people to get into psychedelics and not have to go blow your socks off the first time like I did.
Oh my God. So amazing. I'm curious. I think we talked about it a little in a sidebar, but is this just like, oh, you put an essential oil in a diffuser during a trip and see what happens?
No, no diffusers at all. So they're essential oils, but they're not like, doTERRA or Young Living or things like that. These are very different. In fact, my partner was like, "Oh yeah, I have a whole bunch of essential oils," and I'm like, I think you should smell these. These are different. These are very alive molecules. I mean, they're of plants, labdanum and helichrysum and vetiver and things like that are from India, from France, and so you work with them. I'm working with them so that I'm familiar with them and what they do and how they kind of stimulate, I don't know, different parts of your brain. And then I work with, my husband. He was sort of my first really big guinea pig. It was actually this weekend. I worked with him for several days beforehand, and we narrowed it down to 2 or 3 different aromas. One that he felt was very grounding, that if he happened to go through some challenging type stuff, and I could tell that based on what he was doing physically, that it would be an aroma I could use to pull him back into you're okay, you're here, you're on earth, and it's going to be okay. He didn't need that, which was lovely. And then we had 2 other aromas that I used. One that he felt was very peaceful feeling, and it was calming, and that was actually ginger lily. And another one that he felt was love. And I worked with these 3 oils for multiple days and made sure, are you getting the same feeling? Are you getting the same thought process with these each time? And so those 3 he was consistent with. And so there was one part of his journey that he was pretty emotional. He wasn't sobbing or anything, but I could tell, his breathing was kind of deepening and quickening, and it was something very meaningful was going on. And so the one that spoke love was sage. And I just put it on a little scent stick, and then he's got an eye mask on and headphones, and I just wave it kind of over his face. And you can set it right here on their chest too, and they'll take that smell in. And it was astounding to watch him while I was doing that. I mean, you could tell his nose would flare because he was taking it in, and he would just everything would just come down again, and he was just okay. And then the smile started, and I'm like, yes, this is outstanding. I love it. And so when the journey was over, I asked him, you know, do you remember smelling anything? And he goes, oh my God, yes. Yes. It made all the difference. It was huge. It definitely played a part in my journey. And so that was nice to see. And
Oh my
kind of
God.
affirming that, okay, part of my curiosity in this stems from when I was in Jamaica. Of course, they smoke a lot of weed in Jamaica. And as a nurse, I know that, we have patients smoke weed for nausea. In its smoked form, it's the most effective for nausea. And I was very, very nauseated during one of my journeys, throwing up and really nauseated, but had my eyes covered and whatnot. And somebody walked by me and had to have been smoking it and had to have blown it at me. And I remember smelling it, and I was kind of into the journey a little bit, not hard yet, but I remember smelling it and thinking, okay, that's going to help with my nausea. That's going to help with my nausea. And my nausea started to go down a little bit. And then somebody did something florally that was a very light floral scent that I smelt coming in on the breeze because we were outside. And that absolutely just calmed things way down. So I was like, I didn't remember it at the time, but here, 9 months later, or a year and a couple of months later, I'm like, aroma, something with aroma. I've got to explore that more. So yeah, found these folks out of New Mexico that are using it in their practice, and he's a psychiatrist and uses it with ketamine therapy, and so yeah, pretty cool.
Oh my God. So cool. I know it's funny because I'm so used to sitting in these big group, not big, but like, small group ceremonies where it's like most of them are like no essential oils allowed because,
Mm-hmm.
someone might bring one and it's like way too strong and then it's like gives you a headache and then you become uber sensitive and
Mm-hmm.
but then actually one of my people that I work with in Peru, curandera, uses essential oils constantly. Usually if it's, there's a struggle moment, or like I dosed myself essential oils this summer when I was in a never ending journey and it was like long beyond the ceremony ending where I was like, okay, I could use some peppermint up my nose, like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's incredible. I just love how much you've like really dived right into this from this life-changing experience and now you're really like making a difference in people's lives and have this amazing partner that, just to even hear that your relationship has never been the same and it's completely changed after so many years. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
is huge, I want you to really own like your greatness. This is huge. This is so big. And like you said, even being willing to risk, coming out and telling people, it's like that's what the world needs. If this is going to save someone's life, if someone's contemplating suicide or someone's just going through life robotic and not feeling anything, when there's this whole other world. And, I know because it's like I've gone through so much grief and, it's like the ups and downs of being human. I think all of us have, but this is part of it. Like we're meant to be feeling beings, we are
Yeah.
meant to fully feel. And that is our superpower because the more we feel the grief or the sadness or the sorrow or shed the tears, the more we can also feel the love and the joy and the inspiration and the gratitude and like the connection. And that's what this is about is, developing connection and being able to safely share yourself with, your loved ones, your partner, your family, your daughter. I mean, it's just so incredible, this work you're doing. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. You're awfully sweet, and you've been instrumental in all of it. So yeah, I
Oh.
would. I'm sad to see this year close. I'm like, but wait, can I just audit the rest of your classes just for fun?
But we're only just beginning. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just amazing because there's definitely been points where throughout the program, and by the way, I want everybody listening to know this is normal. I mean, I go through this myself. I think every client of mine has had these moments of doubts or fears or like, who am I? But you've really been committed and dedicated and like really, as I teach, it's like putting that greater mission, like your why. Like, why are you called to this? What's the greater mission? Like putting that above the ego that's in the fear, the self doubts, and really immersing yourself into learning from mentors and trainings. And I think you even did this. What was it? The online training you did like twice as fast as it's even offered. And I was like, oh
That
my
was
god.
my integrative mental health coaching thing that was supposed to be like a 9 to 12 month thing. Yeah. And I finished it in 3 months. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Calm down. But at the same time, I got to get it done. I got to get it done, but yeah, taking it easy, learning to maybe take a minute and take a breath and let the process work itself out. It's funny when you talk about feeling, I was taken back to, I'm sort of a smart ass like all the time. And when I when I came back from Jamaica and after a while, when things weren't quite so serious, I was like, yeah, I just said before I went down, I just want to feel something. I'm just so tired of not feeling anything. And then when I got back and started feeling everything, I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes. I just want to feel joy and happiness. This other stuff, I don't need that. I don't need to feel sadness and scared and all that stuff, but with that, like you said, you can't experience joy and happiness if you aren't experiencing the other. And we just need to teach each other and ourselves that it's okay to feel and that it's not forever. And you'll move your way through it if you sit with it. It's when you stuff it and you push it away and avoid it that it rears its ugly head later on. So
Yeah. And this is where this medicine work and microdosing or MDMA or psilocybin comes in so handy because it makes us be able to actually not just feel, but feel vulnerable enough to share it with others, to know like
yeah.
all of us are human. All of us are going to go through, the joy and also the grief. All of us are going to experience loss. It's part of life and it's like not easy. And, we can learn to sit with it and just feel it fully and move through it and then be able to come out of the other side, like even going through what you went through, it's like, look at the medicine, that comes out of this, that you have to share, this journey you are on to take that big leap. I mean, I personally am like, oh my God, I can't even imagine like going down to Jamaica and doing these high dose sessions. Like, that's huge. And, like people that are really committed. And that's something I really honor in you and just your commitment to yourself, your life, the world, your heart, to your family. I mean, it is on some level, I make jokes that I'm like, oh, it'd just be so much easier if I, drank a bottle of wine every night and checked out in front of the TV and didn't feel anything. On some level, that probably is easier. It's like that
Mm-hmm.
life of like not feeling so much or like numbing. Like it is easy to just turn to, an antidepressant. And I do think they have their place. Certain
Oh, for sure.
people, certain times. But yeah, to go your whole life. I mean, I had a client many years ago who was like 65 who was coming off of 30 years. And it was like, she just seems like a different person. It's like witnessing someone go through that, which is not easy. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was going to be my next question is like, how do you feel like your life has been different in the past, you know, 11, 12 months? Like not just your business and not just cutting back on the nursing, but like you as a person, like what do you feel like has changed since stepping into this journey?
I was just talking about this with one of my clients earlier today. Was that there's a reel on Instagram that I saw the other day, and it's a gentleman that's drinking a cup of tea, and he's standing there, and it says above, when you've finally learned to set boundaries, and then he gets on there and he says, "You wish old me was here. I bet you do. I bet you do." And he drinks a cup of tea or whatever, and I'm like, I'm a people pleaser, horrible, horrible people pleaser my whole life. And it was everybody first, me last. And anymore, like at work, I know that the one physician that I work with I was like, he said jump, I said how high. And I was getting him things before he needed it and making sure my coworkers are all taken care of. And anymore, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And he did not like it at first, and now he just laughs and he goes, maybe could you stop doing mushrooms so that you'd be less obstinate? And I go, I don't think it's obstinate. I think it's me just standing up for myself and telling you to get bent, sir. And so, I mean, I think I stick up for myself a lot more. I certainly communicate. I allow myself to be a lot more vulnerable, which is, I mean, it's still hard. It's still hard to do that. But in so doing, it allows for other people to be vulnerable too. And then what happens from that? We communicate and we grow, and we don't spin stories up in our head. And, so yeah, I'm a much more, I take care of me a little bit more than I did before. So
Yeah, because I've noticed that too. And it's just like it's everybody goes through these processes of breaking the patterns. It's like these patterns that don't serve us, that have been really good, keeping us safe mechanisms, and they don't really serve our higher self and our soul's purpose. And especially being vulnerable and being human and being a little easier on ourselves. It's not easy for a lot of us. And I know, because I used to be there. I actually thought about that the other day. I was like, God, sometimes I always feel like reaching out to my old coworkers back when I had a corporate job, which was, I don't know, like 17 years ago now or something like that, like 15 years ago. And I'm like, God, should I apologize to them? Because I'm so different now. I'm like a whole other person. But, we're all human. We all go through the
yeah.
ups and downs, and that's what this journey is about. But Sarah, I just want to say I am so proud of you. This is so amazing. And I want to leave you an opportunity to share with people a little bit more about what you have coming up, any plans for the 2025, and then also where can they get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you in some capacity.
Yeah. So, again, after the first of the year, I mean, we'll be doing journeys, and we do them here in our little house office. You can contact me at sarahs@transformativesolution.com. And we can go through that, or we're at Transformative Solutions, on Facebook. Lots of communication through that avenue there. And then as far as events, really, we've got our next Rekindle event is scheduled for February 14th for Valentine's Day. So we're super excited to do that. And we have pretty limited space for that. So we're going to start asking for some deposits here in the next couple of weeks to hold spaces. And then I think just in 2025, we're gonna experiment with, starting integration circles and doing some aroma circles, just aroma only, and potentially doing aroma circles with a microdose or a museum dose, just to see how people are able to dig with that. And yeah, just kind of playing it as we go, seeing what the desire is for people out there, because we're a pretty sheltered community here. So hoping to expand some minds.
Yes. Oh, I love this. I love that idea of an aroma circle. I'm really into this.
Yeah.
Well, we will have your information right here in the show notes. Sarah, I just want to honor you and thank you again for sharing your story, sharing so vulnerably, doing this work, showing up for the world. This is the medicine we need. And I am so glad that you trusted, even though I know it was scary. I know it's a big deal. But you trusted in the process and like, voila, this is it. Like, this makes
Well,
me so
and
happy to witness.
I equally want to say thank you so much for what you do. I mean, you put a tremendous amount of time, effort, and work into what you do. And I would say for anybody who takes a little bit of a breath when they look at costs, it's worth every single penny. And the investment has been the best investment I've ever made, besides MDMA with my husband. How about that? So
Oh,
do it. People should do it. Absolutely. You're
no.
amazing.
Thank you.
And thank
Oh,
you.
oh.